Instacart helps you get what you need fast. Like when the watch party at your place finally makes it out of the group chat. Suddenly you need snacks, drinks, and all the things nobody planned for. With Instacart, you can get groceries and party essentials delivered. Just download the app, place your order, and it shows up in as fast as 30 minutes. That way, hosting feels easy and looks like you had a plan all along. Get the Instacart app today and get game day deals.
If you often found yourself as the family member who was publicly blamed for things no one else would admit to, as the spouse who was accused of being too sensitive or overreacting when pointing out obvious issues, or as the partner who constantly had to absorb criticism meant to divert attention from someone else's failures, then you are recognizing a classic scapegoat dynamic. Welcome back to the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Podcast. I'm Lynn, your host. Today we're diving into one of the most painful and confusing roles in narcissistic family systems and relationships, being the scapegoat. We're going to explore why this happens, what it looks like, and help you understand that you were never actually the problem. The person who scapegoated you did so to protect their own image and avoid taking responsibility for their actions or faults. This isn't random. It's a calculated psychological maneuver that serves a specific function in keeping dysfunctional systems running smoothly at your expense. Scapegoating exists because whoever holds the power position needs a visible outlet to offload blame. Think of it like a pressure release valve on a steam engine. Without somewhere for the pressure to go, the whole system would explode. But instead of fixing the actual problem causing the pressure, they just redirect it onto you. This keeps the family or relationship system intact by creating a predictable villain who can absorb all the dysfunction. The scapegoat dynamic is fundamentally about avoiding accountability. When someone refuses to examine their own behavior, acknowledge their mistakes, or take responsibility for the chaos they create, they need somewhere else to put that blame. You became that somewhere else. You might have experienced being held responsible for a parent's mood swings despite having no control over their emotional state. Maybe you were blamed for financial troubles in the family when you were just a child with no access to money or decision-making power. In adult relationships, you might have been accused of being the problem whenever conflict arose, regardless of what actually caused the issue. Perhaps you were labeled as too demanding when you simply expressed basic emotional needs, or you were called dramatic and overreactive when you pointed out obvious problems that everyone else was pretending didn't exist. You might have found yourself constantly having to defend your reality while others acted like you were making things up. The person avoiding accountability learned that they could maintain their image and avoid uncomfortable self-reflection by consistently pointing the finger at you. It's actually quite genius from a psychological standpoint, if you can stomach calling emotional manipulation genius. They get to stay comfortable in their delusions, while you carry the weight of all the family or relationship dysfunction. Here's what's particularly cruel about scapegoating. It often targets the person who's most likely to actually examine themselves. The person who scapegoated you probably chose you precisely because you had a conscience, because you would actually consider whether you might be at fault, because you cared enough about relationships to look inward when problems arose. This is why scapegoating is so effective and so damaging. You internalize their projections because you're the type of person who takes responsibility seriously. Meanwhile, the person who should have been taking responsibility was busy making sure everyone knew it was your fault instead. You might have spent years wondering what was wrong with you, why you couldn't get along with everyone else, why you always seemed to be the problem. You probably tried harder and harder to be perfect, thinking that if you could just stop being so difficult, maybe the family or relationship would finally be peaceful. But here's what you need to understand. There was never anything fundamentally wrong with you. You weren't difficult, demanding, or dramatic. You were inconveniently honest in a system that required lies to function. You were asking for basic respect and consideration from people who had no intention of providing either. The dysfunction was already there before you became the scapegoat. Your role was to hide it, not cause it. When families or relationships need a scapegoat, it means there are serious problems that no one wants to address directly. Healthy families and relationships don't need someone to blame for everything that goes wrong. You were chosen for this role because scapegoating you served everyone else's need to avoid looking at themselves. It allowed the person in power to maintain their image while keeping everyone else in line through fear of becoming the next target. This dynamic trained you to accept blame that wasn't yours, to question your own perceptions, and to believe that you were responsible for other people's emotions and behaviors. It taught you that love was conditional on you absorbing everyone else's problems, and that your needs didn't matter as much as keeping the peace. But you weren't keeping the peace. You were enabling dysfunction. There's a difference between harmony and the artificial calm that comes from having one person absorb all the family or relationship toxicity. The truth is that whoever scapegoated you needed you more than you needed them. They needed somewhere to put their shame, their failures, their uncomfortable emotions. They needed someone to blame so they never had to grow or change. Without you in that role, they would have had to face themselves. You were not the problem. You were the solution to someone else's inability to handle their own problems. That's completely different, even though it felt the same to you at the time. When looking back, where do you see blame being placed on you despite clear evidence that the real issues came from someone else? How did that shape your sense of responsibility and self-worth? Take some time to really think about this, because recognizing the pattern is the first step to understanding that you were never the villain in someone else's story. Thanks for being here today. If this episode resonated with you and you're finding value in the work we're doing here, there are a few ways you can support and deepen your healing journey. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can leave a tip at buymeacoffee.com/waketheelephant. Every contribution helps us keep creating content that validates your experiences and supports your recovery. And if you're ready for more personalized support and wish to meet on a one-on-one basis, you can head to our website at movingforwardafterabuse.com/coaching and complete the Google form. We'll get back to you from there. For additional resources, visit movingforwardafterabuse.com. And if you're finding value in these episodes, we have ad-free versions and bonus content over on Supercast at narcissisticabuserecovery.supercast.com. This is Lynn, and this has been another episode of the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Podcast. I'll see you in the next one. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The content shared is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, please seek help from a qualified professional or contact a local crisis hotline.
It's last call for football on FanDuel, with one last round of rewards every day through Super Bowl 60. One last week for one more chance. Visit the FanDuel app all week long for limited time boost every day until football runs out. FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 60.
New customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com.